Welcome back. Thank you for tuning into our show, Ways to Love Your Money. I am Elisabeth Dawson, and I'm so glad that you're spending your time with us today. I really want to talk about, and more of a lead into what we started to speak about the last show, about the true anxieties about talking about money. And we work so hard for it, but we never realize how important it is to have a better relationship with it, because if you don't have a good relationship with money, number one, you're too afraid to talk about it because you just don't want to be told that you're doing the wrong thing. Number two, you want to make sure that you have enough because there's a lot of scarcity out there, right? Life gets more expensive and life gets busier as we go. Ultimately, when we get closer to our more adult years, if you will, and get closer to retirement, we want to make sure we do have enough to have the amount of money that we want to have in retirement. So that's truly about the economics, the personal economics. But we have so many things tied to our emotional stress when it comes to money. So how do you get over that? We really try and do a great job with being humble when it is the opportunity to speak with people, because we know how vulnerable it is to speak about money. So what is your hang up? What is causing you to stay awake at night? What are you waiting for? What are your call to actions? Because it's not just about getting to retirement. You want to make sure that along the way you have liquidity for money, that you have opportunity for money, that you have, your best investments in front of you. And it's not just about the stock market. It's really about every financial decision that you're making in your life. So we're a very comprehensive type of financial advising firm, but we try to deal with the human element first. The human element is the anxiety of us being able to even talk about money first and foremost. So how can you become more confident about talking about money and your relationship with it? When people have a respect for money, they actually have a better relationship, but then ultimately they start to see things actually happen for the positive. So if you don't feel that money in your life, that you have a good relationship with it, and that it's not really doing all the positive things you need it to do, then this is the time for you to have your call to action, kind of figure out what makes you tick and why you want to actually start to do things today. Don't wait for that procrastination of, I'll do it in the beginning of next year. Life happens, it's busy, something's always going to stop you from doing those things. And if you don't really want to do it, you're not going to do it. So what we always try to do is making this conversation more fun to talk about. We take the complicated and make it more simple. And yes, there's a learning curve. We love to educate, but that's really why you're listening to the show too. So how can you actually create wealth? And you need a team to do it. There's a professional for everything. So again, my passion leads me to having a better relationship with the consumer, and that is you, so that you can have a better relationship with money, so you don't have hang-ups, so that you can actually take everything that you have core beliefs about, whether it's doing business with the government first, they take a cut of your check before you get it. Whether it's doing business with banks because you have to use a bank for your money. Whether it's doing business with financial institutions, which so many people have this attrition to want to be able to be a part of credit cards and the credit card living of lifestyle. Don't let things control you. Your lifestyle is the other part where you do business with as well. So all these entities are wanting to take your money. And at the end of the day, what are you left with? Majority of people I'll talk to, they don't even think that they have money. And I said, well, you just don't know where it is. And that's our goal, is to help you find the recovery of that money that's going to those financial institutions that you're doing business with, and recover that wealth, recover it for you, recover it for the future that you want to have for your goals, dreams, and desires, and make those things work. So we're going to be talking to a few different people today, and we love to hear their stories and really what made them a success and how they become financially responsible. We're so hoping that you're going to continue to stay tuned, and we'll be right back in just a few moments. So stay tuned to Ways to Love Your Money. Again, I'm Elisabeth Dawson, and if you aren't going to wait any longer and you're going to take action today, take massive action by giving us a phone call at 619-640-2622. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to have you have a consultation with us, or we'd just love to get your feedback about what you feel about the show. And then ultimately, if you're that interested, we'd love to have you on the show too as a guest. So I hope you'll be here in the future, right here on this stage, and having a conversation with us. We so look forward to it. And again, stay tuned. We'll be right back. So glad that you're still listening. And when you get a chance, go on our social media platforms. We have Elisabeth with an S, M. Dawson, and Copia Wealth Management and Insurance Services. Find our groups there, and we look forward to connecting with you soon. Welcome back. This is Ways to Love Your Money. I'm Elisabeth Dawson, and I have a great friend of mine here today. His name is Joe Deutsch, and I can't wait for you to hear his story and about what he does in his profession. So without further ado, I'm going to start with Joe. Thank you so much. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Oh, good, good. I'm so glad, because I know that sometimes being on these kind of shows, you just don't necessarily know what to say, but we hope you have a lot to say today. So tell us a little bit about what you do, and why you do it, and really where your passion is. So tell us a little bit about what you do first.
I am an insurance agent broker, so I work with families, small business owners to help them protect their assets and make sure they have the right coverages in place for the right amount of money, and make sure they use their insurance dollars wisely.
So you're in something more like what's called property and casualty, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so protecting
Absolutely.
your home, protecting your business, protecting the liability of all those things, and making sure things get replaced the right way. So what are your bigger obstacles or challenges with that?
Just communicating the importance of certain types of coverage that give people added benefit, added protection when they aren't necessarily very familiar with it. So insurance as a whole is kind of a dirty word. You tell somebody you're an insurance agent or broker, and you've just ruined the party for them. But what I do is very rewarding. It's very satisfying knowing that I protect people and their assets, and something I can be proud of.
That's great. And I know that you have a different and a unique process too, where you actually do a proposal that has multiple pieces to it, where you talk about, well, this is what you could do, or you can have option 2 or option 3, what's behind, door number 1, 2, or 3, right? But I think it's really unique because a lot of companies that are in the property and casualty business do not do anything like that. So you really are more of an advisor. Would you say?
Yeah, we really strive to be an advisor more so than just commodities. Here's insurance policy A, B, go ahead and take the cheapest one and run. It's really more about what fits best. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there's not a lot of options, but almost always, more often than not, there's a lot of different pieces that you can kind of tweak and make fit you best. So just depends on the situation, and sometimes it's simple and sometimes it's very complicated.
So what's the wildest thing that someone's ever asked you to help get them insurance for? To protect that asset.
Gosh, probably at this point a castle.
A castle. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's a unique piece of property in Alpine, actually, that you may or may not have even seen.
I am familiar with it.
You know the piece
Yes.
of property, yep. So it was insured during kind of a real estate speculation deal, and it had some very interesting characteristics that kicked all the normal insurance companies out of the market, and we had to find some specialty in insurance.
You were able to get it done?
We were.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
I'd
good.
love to say that it was super cheap, but it wasn't. But insuring a castle is just not something that comes, dime a dozen.
Right. Well, I'm very familiar with Alpine, of course, but and they're not always the easiest proproperties to insure.
There's a lot of areas like that in San Diego.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the business that you've had in the past and where you're at today.
Oh, boy. See, I started in the business with a single insurance company known as an exclusive agent. So you just represent their products, their company alone. Didn't have any options to go outside and kind of shop around and figure out what was best. Everything was best for one individual company when that's all you have. So got into the business that way, learned a lot, thought it was going to be easy. Jumping in, I thought, well, everybody needs insurance. This is going to be it's a piece of cake.
Right.
And it wasn't. It just wasn't. So success didn't come right away. We really had to kind of get our feet wet, learn the market, figure out where our products really benefited people the most. And once we did that, it started to kind of sing, so much so that we got a lot of referrals that weren't exactly that target market that we had the best products for. So we ended up diverting a lot of incoming new clients to other brokerages or through brokerage arms that we had, which is kind of insurance jargon. But basically, we were giving away as much business as we were taking in. And so it prompted me and my business partner at the time to say, hey, why don't one of us resign from the company, start an independent agency, and then If it fits an independent agency model, we'll go there. And if it fits the original company that we worked with better, then we'll go there. And best of all worlds, we can help everybody a lot more efficiently.
So let me ask you this question, because we talk about this on the show and in classes that we do, our workshops and such, and there's a difference between an agent, which is kind of where you were at before when you got started, versus a broker. And a broker has so many more opportunities, so many different companies that they can look at, and it's not just one cookie cutter form for that individual to be able to explain to their consumer. So what you're kind of telling me is that you became more of a broker as your time taught you, and you can elaborate on there too, but it's very important. And again, we talk about these things because it's so important to have more of a broker when it comes to insurance in the world that you're in property and casualty. We talk about it in health insurance, and it's where they're not really, just proprietary to one company. It gives you a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah, there's a lot of different distinctions between agent and broker in the legal sense when you sign a contract with an insurance company, whether or not you're representing them as an agent or a broker. But in the general sense, which I think is the more broad understanding in the general public, an agent typically is an exclusive representative of that insurance company. It's not that they're not there to help you and help you find out what's best from what they have to offer. But a broker is more of somebody who works on your behalf to find the right insurance company, the right contract that fits your needs the best. That's oversimplifying it in a big way. But for the most part, that's the understanding in the general public.
Well, and that's good, because I don't think a lot of people know out there that having true advice from someone that can actually go out there and do something that's in your best interest. We talk a little bit about fiduciary responsibility. Agents and brokers are not fiduciaries, but they still have to kind of look out for what's in the best interest of the consumer. And so why is that important? You want to make sure that you have someone looking out for you, what's doing the best interest of your business, for you to protect your personal assets, your business assets, and so much more. So again, I think we use a lot of these words where we, it's complicated stuff, but we're trying to make it more simple for the consumer to be able to make better decisions, right?
Absolutely. I consider that my job, is to take something like insurance, which is just rarely understood, often misunderstood, and make it comprehensive yet simplified. Right. So we want it to be as useful and beneficial as possible. And there's a lot of little pieces that you have to move around to make it fit correctly. But you also have to be able to communicate that in a simplified way to make it easy to understand.
And you have a passion for this. So where did that passion come from?
Good question. Probably just growing up in a wonderful family. I've been blessed beyond what I could ever deserve, but I've always had a lot of help, whether it was with relationships or learning something, but I've always been encouraged, and it kind of just translated into something that I have a need to do for others now, is just to help people understand things, solve problems, and encourage others. So I think that's where it comes from.
I think it's great, because it has more of a serving type of place that you're coming from, which is great. When I was young, I always thought I wanted to be a nurse. I wanted to help people, but I never knew that I would ever come into this industry. I couldn't be more excited about being in it, because it is about giving back. It is about educating. It is about taking care of people. And I love it. I share your same passion for that. So tell me a little bit about this. You have 4 children, and they are... Go ahead and tell me the ages of your kids.
They're 6, 8, 10, and 12. In any given month of the year, those could change. So
oh, wow.
It's no use guessing.
Yes. I know you and your wife are very busy.
My wife,
busy.
Much busier than I am. She does the hard work. I just go to the office.
You just go to the office. You just go to work.
Here I am.
and your fun fact is this, that your wife's maiden name is DiMaggio.
It is indeed.
So how was that when you first met her? Was that kind of a selling thing for you?
I'm not a real baseball buff. It's playoff season, so I love playoffs.
Right.
I love baseball right now. But I was never a huge baseball fan, so much so that my wife actually taught me a few things, because she was into softball, and the family name carried some tradition that...
Yeah, I think that's amazing. So she's a distant relative of Joe DiMaggio?
She is, and I don't remember off the top of my head whether it's like a 4th cousin or what it is, but it's something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible. I'm sure that's a fun fact when you're going and talking to people about stuff, if they just kind of throw something out there, a little zinger for you, like, oh, hey, by the way.
It's fun. The talk was originally that I should have taken her name and been Joe DiMaggio, but I'm just poor when it comes to playing baseball, so I thought that would be a
Joe
disgrace.
Deutsch DiMaggio.
Yeah, right. I'll hyphenate it. Yeah.
So the company that you're representing now, what's the name of that company?
Champion Risk and Insurance Services.
Okay. And if people have questions for you, do you want them to come through us, or do you want them to actually give you a call?
Either way, whatever they're most comfortable with. Sometimes they're most comfortable asking you because they've got such a good relationship,
Sure.
and we just act as a resource to you or directly to the consumer.
Yes. And Joe's been a great help for our clients in the past and other people too. We love to give input back to just really more of a resource where they can actually do more work and get much more of an effort and benefit with a lot more knowledge out of it. So we want to say thank you so much for coming today. We're really grateful for your time. We feel very blessed for that. And, if you all have any questions out there for Joe or for myself out there, so give us a call at 619-640-2622, or feel free to email us questions with an S at elizabeth.dawson.com. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. We have another great interview coming up shortly. What's your call to action? This is Elisabeth Dawson, and we are here with Ways to Love Your Money. So your call to action should be to give us a call at 619-640-2622. Let us know what you're thinking about. If you want a consultation, we'll be happy to talk with you in the future, as well as taking a look at our website, Elisabeth with an S, Dawson.com, and you can ask for your questions there as well. So questions with an S at Elisabeth with an S, Dawson.com. We can't wait to hear from you. Hopefully we will soon. Hi, welcome back to Ways to Love Your Money. I'm Elisabeth Dawson, and I'm so glad that we have our next guest. He's a very special person to me, and this gentleman was actually in corporate America at one point, but now he is actually working in the ministry, which this is where I know this man from. So without further ado, this is Pastor Erik Dees, and he is with Journey Community Church, and we're so glad and grateful that he's here, and I really want him to tell us a little bit about his journey to get to this point, no pun intended. But it's been a journey. You've had a lot of life experience, and share with us what you want to share. But at what point, when you started your working life career, you were heavily involved with Walmart, but I don't know to what degree, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about your story.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in a blue-collar home, really didn't have intentions necessarily of going in ministry and really even into like corporate work necessarily. I grew up in northern Colorado, and in my growing up years, I happened to land a job at one of Walmart's logistics facilities. They've got these great big distribution centers, got this huge logistics network. And I was just a young kid, and I landed this really good job. It was that or the military. I wasn't sure where I was going to go with my life, so I ended up getting on board with Walmart as this kid and just started working really hard. And I grew up in a home where work ethic was a high value. That's one thing I learned quite a bit growing up, is just how to work hard. And so that work ethic was really helpful. Anyway, that led to this journey through really the logistics network of Walmart. I worked in a few of their warehouses, ultimately found a niche in training and development with people, with working with leadership. And ended up discovering a passion for leadership development, and they ended up bringing me to corporate offices in the early 2000s out of one of their warehouses. And so that led to, I did a lot of different things in their corporate offices in the logistics division. I ended up doing a stint I wrote curriculum for them. I did studio broadcast. I did a lot of studio work, so this kind of stuff I enjoyed. Yeah. We would write curriculum, and then we would broadcast it across the nation to our facilities across the nation to train our leaders. So did a lot of that, and that was the path of my life. And my intention was to finish a long career with Walmart. It was a great company for me. My experiences were very positive. They taught me how to work. They taught me how to lead. They taught me about organizational dynamics, expense control. I know that's right up your alley. I really learned expense control management in a corporate setting and in a business setting, the value of that. I had no intention necessarily of going into ministry. I found my faith in my early 20s. I was just a typical young guy doing career work stuff and lots of ambition and desire, but lacking a lot of direction. And through a series of experiences, and he had a very powerful encounter with God, and that encounter spiritually just redirected the course of my life. not necessarily in the ministry, but the way that I dealt with life. The grid in my life changed, just sort of unlearning some things and started relearning a new way of thinking about life. And that infiltrated a lot of how I thought about work. And ultimately, I was engaged to my now wife at the time, Christy, and we were, right before we got married, we had a conversation, and my plan was to finish my career at about 20 to 25, maybe 30 years. Okay. And I wanted to really launch a consulting kind of business. I wanted to do leadership training. I wanted to do stuff for working with organizations. That was my dream. And I wrote up this great business plan. I had it all mapped out. And I was in this conversation with my wife, or wife to be at the time. And we just wrestled back and forth with, I was like, I just felt unsettled with my plan, didn't feel right. And I didn't know what it was. And my wife said, Eric, have you ever thought about pastoral work? I'm like, no, I had zero interest in working in the church. I was a part of the church. I've always been involved as a busy employee. I had a lot of work outside of the church, but then I was a volunteer for years. And then I ended up my wife said that to me, or the wife-to-be at the time said that to me, and it arrested my attention. And I said no initially, and then began to ponder, I don't know, maybe. And then just through some prayer and some contemplation, months later, I really recognized that the way I was going about my plan was not necessarily the purpose or purpose of my life at that time. So redirected and went back to school, and got a theology degree, and ended up completely starting over in a ministry. I moved to Iowa a couple of years later and started work in a small church. Oh, wow. And then, that's moved around the country. Been in full-time ministry almost 10 years, just shy of 10 years now.
So that's quite a magnificent journey, really. And Christy, your wife, which I'd love to have her here on the show, but I think she's in Europe right now,
She is walking the El Camino in Spain right now.
Oh,
actually.
wow.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is an experience all in itself. But finding your way, and I have a 20-year-old son that I think he's exactly on that path of pondering. He's in college right now, but then, does he go into the military? What does he do when he gets after it? And there's so much to consider. So what I have noticed with people that I've talked to that have basically led their life of success, even transferred, to a different, path or career, that along the way, there's been mentors involved. And I would almost consider you now, even in your pastoral life, that you're a mentor to so many. And being the executive pastor, which is, a little different, the structure of the church is a little different, right? So you're not the one that's speaking on Sunday, that's Pastor Ed Noble.
Correct.
And but what you do is you kind of are this arms around the church, and you're around with all, everyone there. And your approach is very calm. It's very peaceful. It's very welcoming. Wherein sometimes in the past, and people would not be so welcoming to someone of let's say authority. Right. But I think that even in your leadership that you've done throughout your career life, when you were with Walmart until now it's even in a bigger leadership role. Yeah. Do you feel that has been something that's grounded you and kind of created that part of your your life path at this point?
Yeah, I think so. I think I think my faith informs the soul peace. I would say peace on the inside. It's shaped through my faith. I think I think most people would probably agree that you can attain a lot in life, and finances and achievement and accomplishment, but you can't buy peace. You can never buy peace, and peace is the kind of peace that the Bible describes is the peace I always wanted my whole life. I grew up very restless on the inside and longed for peace. And I think that the peace I always sought is really found in a relationship with God. And that is the grounding anchor and filter for life for me, through which I counsel or we lead our church organization or encourage other people's lives from this place of peace. So I'm honored that you'd say that, because that really has been my heart's desire, is to live from peace, the kind of peace that God gives.
Sometimes we don't always get it the way we want it.
Not necessarily. That's very true.
But it comes in its way.
Yeah, right.
Now, I know that you do work also with charitable organizations and things, and we've actually given to the homeless,
Yeah.
the food bank and
Yes.
things like that, and just so much more involved in the community. And what do your heartstrings go? What kind of charitable
Yeah.
part of the ministry? Where does that go?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really love, I'm very proud of a couple times a week, we are a major food distribution site. So we feed hundreds of people regularly throughout the week at our site. We have a food bank on
Right.
site at the church,
Right.
and I'm very proud of that. I just love that. We've got volunteers who work very, very hard. We're always looking for more volunteers,
Yes.
actually. We're short sometimes on volunteers because there's a lot of lifting, and we've got a couple of people in there that there's some physical limitations, so we're always looking for help in the food bank. But it's a great ministry. We every week, I think twice a week is our current schedule. A couple times during the week, you would come by and you could see a line of people getting fed every week, people who don't have, who just can't, for whatever life circumstances, aren't able to eat, and we're able to provide that. I love that. We also have a thrift store on our campus that is very well ran. Very proud of our thrift store too. All of the proceeds from our thrift store, they pay for their own operation costs, but then anything above operational costs, we fund global missions work through our thrift store.
Okay.
So we've done some work in Haiti, we've done some work in Swaziland, and a lot of that funding is driven by the quality of our thrift store.
That's pretty amazing. I know there's a coffee shop there too.
There is, yeah.
And that gets run on the weekends, and it's a pretty popular place
Yes.
to be. And it is quite a community,
Yes.
church. I mean, when you say community church, it is something
It
like
is
that.
indeed, yes.
But you do reach so many people's lives, and there's such a different walk of life that walks through those doors, and it's pretty amazing. I mean, I think you probably feel more fulfilled than ever most
Yes.
days. So,
Yeah, I think so.
and I know that you recently had a grandbaby.
I did. Yes.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about that grandbaby.
Yeah, so our daughter, who is 24, just had a baby in June in Iowa. His name is Brecken. So he's about, 4 or 5 months old now.
Yes.
And that was quite an experience,
Yes.
becoming a grandparent. And I actually became a grandparent twice because my daughter married a young man with a little guy already. So we inherited a guy
Oh,
from
wow.
the beginning. So my wife and I became grandparents instantly, and then did again about a year later. So that's been quite a journey for us. Life seasons change, and you move from the role of parenting, parenting to like stepping back and watching your child parent. That's an interesting season of life, unexpected.
And I know when we first talked about you being a part of the show, Ways to Love Your Money, you're like, well, I don't really work that way
Right,
anymore,
right, exactly.
because it is really about how do we kind of create ways to love our money, but in the sense of how can we give back, right?
Right.
And we're such a faith-based organization as well as giving back to charities, giving back
love
to
that.
tithe, all
Yes.
those different pieces, and it's a big part of our business where
Yeah.
our entire team gets involved, which I love that part, and I feel very fortunate that I have such an incredible team that gets me there, and gets us all there to that point, but. I love that that's even another part where within the church there's businesses within the church that are creating that
Yes.
revenue stream to be able to do things to
Yes.
support even more, let's say charitable organizations or outreach or just people in need. And I think that's powerful today.
Yeah.
It doesn't ever stop.
Right, yeah.
And then I know that there's a little fun fact. We always like to talk about a little bit of a fun fact. So way back when you were on a show.
I was.
So tell us a little bit about that
that's
show
fun,
that you were on.
Yeah, one of the funnest days of my life was being on The Price is Right in 2009. My wife is the adventurous one,
Yes.
and I'm the little more serious one, is what she would say. But she had an idea. We were passing through San Diego, actually. We weren't living here at the time. And my wife said, hey, we should go through LA, and we were taking a cruise, I think, out of LA at the time. And she's like, why don't we try to get on The Price is Right? And I'm like, come on, I had too much to do, a lot going on. I don't have time for that. And my wife has this fun, sanguine personality, and finally she convinced me to get up. You have to get up at like 5 or 6 in the morning to go down, wait in line to get tickets, and so on and so forth. So I agreed to do it reluctantly at first, and I was like, we're too busy, but ended up going along and went down there. And then the process is you're waiting in line, and I read all night about it. I was like, if we're gonna do it, we're gonna try to get on. So we ended up, you're with hundreds of people, and the producers are interviewing. They're walking down the rope line, and they're meeting potential contestants. And I don't know what happened. I don't know why they picked me, honestly. I really don't know, but I was having fun, and I have a little bit of a fun spirit. And I guess maybe that came through. And so I was on in 2009 and it was a blast. I mean, the most fun I've had. It was one of the funnest days of my life. Most fun days, yeah. It was a great time. So anyway, I got on the bidders row.
You did?
I got the coveted last seat on bidders row, which, like, everybody's bids. So you just got to go over or under depending on what you think the bid was. So I won this incredible home gym, like a really expensive home gym. And I was living in Iowa at the time, so it was great because the winters and stuff in Iowa.
Sure.
So that was really fun. And then I lost pretty bad on the second game, so I didn't get to go very far. But an ironic fact is that in our little church where we lived in Iowa at the time, myself and another gal in the church, 2 people out of this church of 100 people were both on The Price is Right within about a 2-year period. It was crazy. She actually won the whole thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I was a little jealous of that. She won everything. Yeah, she won like multiple trips.
So do you still have that gym set today?
I actually sold it about 2 years ago when I moved into my house currently because I couldn't keep it anymore.
Couldn't keep it anymore.
Yeah. So I ended up selling it, and but had a great run with it. So.
Well, I always love that because it just is the real part of people, right?
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, we had a great time.
Now, just to ask you one last question, as far as financial wisdom that you would give to anyone out there, obviously we talk about a lot of respect for money because we're so fortunate and blessed to be able to be given what we have.
Yeah.
We work hard for it, but at the same time to be mindful of that.
Right.
So I know that you reach out to a lot of young people as well, which is great, and I know you do that through your wife quite often. And but you're also a great counselor for people too. So if you have any words of wisdom, we'd love to hear them. We can cut it short, whatever you want. But ultimately, if you had any words of wisdom, what would you tell people out there that are looking closer? Well, they might be in the middle of their career, they might be getting closer to retirement, but along the way, how to have a true respect for their financial resources that they have been so blessed to have.
Yeah, I guess my first thought is money is an important topic, and even in the church, it's important we talk about money because it hits so many people's lives. And I think that one of the temptations with money is to make it an ultimate thing as opposed to an important thing. And so one way that I always counsel people, and actually our lead pastor says this a lot, is be careful of what you make the ultimate thing in your life because it has a lot of power over you. And so I think money is a means to an end, I think can be a means to a far greater end, and that is through using the wealth that's created to serve other people, or it's, obviously nothing wrong with a comfortable lifestyle, of course, but let not money become the ultimate thing in life. There's so much more, but let money serve a higher purpose in your life, whatever that might look like in relationship to a person, and maybe they're figuring out their spiritual life.
Well, I'm sure people have a lot more questions about that too, because wisdom always creates even more questions sometimes. But we are so grateful that you came on the show. Thank you for celebrating this with us, and we really look forward to possibly having you back, or even Christy back in the future.
Pleasure to be here.
But thank you so much. And please stay tuned. We're going to be having some final comments for the rest of the show. Ways to Love Your Money. Again, I'm Elisabeth Dawson, and if you have any questions for Pastor Erik, please, by all means, give us a call at 619-640-2622, and we can put you in contact with them. All right, stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Ways to Love Your Money. I'm Elisabeth Dawson. I'm so glad that you're still staying tuned. I just want to talk to you a little bit about really the wrap-up of our day. We're so grateful that we had Joe Deutsch here and also Pastor Erik Dees. I mean, just wonderful people, and I hope that you got something out of their stories, because it really does start with financial responsibility and having a good relationship with money, but to really understand what it's for, what it's all about. It's not just necessarily to lead you to create that wealth, but it's there for you to, be respectful of money, but to also get more comfortable about talking about money. So every person out there is a different walk of life, and that's really what the purpose of this drive is for this show. I want people to be able to connect all different types of professions, all different types of goals, dreams, and desires. We all have them, but we just don't know how to execute them. So what is your call to action today? Did you hear something that resonated with you that sounds like you need some help in understanding a better relationship with money? It might be, philosophically, it might be economically, it might be psychologically, but this is really where our passion comes from, that we really want to go back and sift through the pieces and make life a better place for you, not only today but tomorrow, a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. Even if retirement's 20 or 30 years off, how do you actually plan for a great, successful year that you're in, of course, but years to come, making sure that you have successes. So your call to action is really to get on the phone and call us at 619-640-2622. Have a complimentary consultation with us. Let's see if there's a good fit for us to help you. And eventually, maybe you want to be part of the show. Maybe you might be a professional out there, or a very successful family, or a family that is very charitably inclined. We love people that give back to the community. Ultimately, we would love for you to follow us and look at our social media. There's Elisabeth with an S, M as in Mary, Dawson, and there's also Copia Wealth Management and Insurance Services. Both of these social media platforms are powerful in their own right, but one of them actually has a group that people have been following on where we have personal interaction with them. Again, we're so fortunate and so blessed to be a part of your day. You're going to have questions. So those questions, write them down. And you might be driving in your car right now, so don't do it while you're driving. But write your questions down so you can study what you want to talk about. We hope to get your questions at questions with an S at Elisabeth with an S Dawson.com. We really want to hear your feedback about what is on your mind. Are you concerned about maybe what's happening with your retirement accounts? Are you concerned that you might not have life insurance and you have children, or you are growing your estate and you don't know what to do with it? Or you're concerned because most of your accounts are all taxable and you just don't know how to spend down through some of those assets because of the cost of the taxes involved when you do. Or it might be about real estate. We know lots of people about real estate and they'd love to hear your story, as well as, is it a right time to refinance, or is it a right time to purchase? Or how do you send your kids to college, or how do you pay for their wedding? There's so many different dynamics. We have to all be driven about where we come up with the dollars and cents to make that happen for you. So each conversation that we have is intimate. It's personal. It's about you. We know it's very vulnerable to talk about money, and it makes people nervous. So how do we now get more comfortable with the conversation about money? And how do we get more comfortable about using it in our life and not being restricted by it, or having it become a paralyzing effect for us? My mission and my goal is to educate as many people as I possibly can, and I'm so grateful to be able to do this with our Ways to Love Your Money show. And again, we hope that you stay tuned for the next show to be coming on with some more great guests in the future. So again, stay tuned. Social media, phone call, questions. We can't wait to talk to you and see you in the future. Thank you so much for listening.